Okay, let's get started. This is Jason again with the National Weather Service. I have Katie and Nick with me here as well. They're going to be taking over some of the briefings here in the future, so they're going to be watching in today. Taking you through what's going to happen for this week, just recapping, we've had quite a few days here where we've had some enhanced thunderstorm activity, whether it be up north, across North Georgia with a MCS strong thunderstorm system that came down, and then yesterday across central Georgia we had quite a few strong to occasionally severe thunderstorms. And then along with that we've had the heat, of course, and those heat indices in excess of 105 heat advisory criteria well up into the Atlanta metro. So let's see how all that's going to be changing here over the next week. So the highlights for the week, likely rain chances in the southern sections today. You may have noticed drier air working in to the northern sections. Maybe feels slightly better than it has the last few days from the Atlanta metro and points northward. But to the south, the front's still situated down there, which we'll show you that here in a second. So with the front down there, there's still lots of moisture and still lots of opportunity for storms down there. So that's where the best chances are going to be. Now that moisture is going to shift back to the north on Sunday. It's going to bring a return of more typical summer type weather to North Georgia. So we're going to be dry here for the next several days across a good portion of the area, but then Sunday bringing that greater coverage of storms for the afternoons and evenings mainly back to all of Georgia. A few strong storms possible daily. It's just that time of year where we can get the damaging winds, localized flooding, small hail, and frequent lightning. Can't rule out an isolated severe storm either, but most of the time this time of year we're looking at just strong storms. The high temps will stay above average through the weekend, then moderate, but only a little. It's still summertime out there. Highs in the low to mid 90s today through Saturday, and then upper 80s to low 90s Sunday through Wednesday. A lot of that's going to have to do with upper level low that's going to be parked over the area by the time we get into the middle of next week. So we'll be getting the increased rain chances and cloud cover that comes along with that. And that'll help keep some of those temperatures down. So keeping those temperatures down will also add to the relief in the heat indices, which will drop, and I put that in quotation marks, 100 degrees or lower through Wednesday. It's at least better than we've seen. We saw some values this last week that was as high as 110, 112, I think, in some areas. So we were really getting up there in those soupy conditions. So it'll at least get a little bit better. Here's those current conditions I was telling you about, and that front is there in the orange shading, kind of a stationary front at this point. It was moving through yesterday, but it stalled out across central Georgia, as we often see this time of year. The front will stick around through the weekend along and south of this front where the storms will be developing. So kind of see that Columbus to Macon corridor will be southeast of that today is where we expect most of the storm development. North of the fronts where the slightly drier air is worked in, we'll be getting full sun in these areas, so it's still going to feel hot, but maybe the drier conditions will maybe make it feel not as quite as hot as it had the last few days. Here's our severe weather outlook. Not really expecting all that much, just general thunderstorm risk. For the most part, the marginal risk is really out east of our area towards Savannah. So for the next 2 days at least, we're expecting thunderstorms possible, but mainly over central Georgia, and strong storms possible, but not really expecting any severe activity. Here's those rain chances today, tomorrow, and Saturday. So today you can see, as we said, Columbus to Macon, looking at 20 to almost 30%, but as we get southeast of that, we're looking at much higher chances, getting into the likely category in 60 and 70% as we get down to, say, Toombs County. So much higher this afternoon. For tomorrow, that precip gets a little bit even further southeast. You can see the dry air working in. Even Columbus and Macon are looking at very low rain chances for Friday. Almost nothing for the metro or North Georgia. But as we get, again, down into Toombs County there, higher rain chances there. So a very small sliver or area where that front will be, we'll still see high rain chances. Saturday, returning a little bit to the area with slight chance across the metro and low end chance, Columbus to Macon, call it. And then the mountains there, you're starting to see a little bit of return moisture and starting to see those rain chances increase a little bit. And then the 7-day rainfall forecast. Looking at that, now this is taking into account some enhanced rainfall coming in Sunday, and then again, as I talked about, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week, we're going to have that upper level low over it, so that's going to be providing a little bit better chances on those days of seeing rain than what we'll see over the weekend. But even then, rain chances are going to be somewhat manageable. We're going to have to watch that area, though. Dublin, Vidalia, those areas could be seeing in excess of 2 inches. The last couple of days, a lot of those areas have already seen 2 to 3 inches. So you add on top of that some of this anticipated rainfall, and there could be some areas that get saturated, and we'll have to watch out for flooding. Across North Georgia, not nearly as much. Generally less than a ½ inch, less than a ¼ inch for a lot of those areas across North Georgia, and then the metro, maybe 3/4 of an inch to an inch for this time frame. So we'll be watching how this, the evolution of this system next week. As I said, the rain chances will be increasing as we get into latter part of the weekend and early next week. So we'll just have to see how these rainfall totals pan out, but they should be going up. Excessive rainfall, this just tells us where some of the rainfall today could lead to localized flash flooding based on the rain that we got yesterday with the 2 to 3 inches. Day one, expecting over the far south regions of marginal risk, so we'll watch out for some isolated flooding down there. Nothing expected on day 2, which is why it's not shown here. But day 3, when that moisture return that we showed for Saturday comes back in, could be looking at some heavy rains again for primarily central Georgia, so we'll be watching for that. Some of this rain is still needed, though, so very welcomed. As a matter of fact, some of those areas near Macon still in D1 moderate drought. This is as of today when this was, or this morning when this was updated. Many areas still in the D0 range, which is abnormally dry, including my house. Could use a little bit more rain in those areas as well. So we'll see if we can get some of this rainfall going this next week, and maybe we can alleviate some of these drought conditions. Here's those high temperatures we talked about that we're going to be coming down. So as we look at today and tomorrow, not much relief. As a matter of fact, going up by 1 degree or 2 for Friday. That's going to be because we have mostly clear skies and full sun out there. So still drier, so it won't feel as bad as the last few days, but still going to be hot. And then as we start to get the storms moving back for the weekend, especially Sunday into early next week, you can see those temperatures really come down as we get increased cloud cover and higher rain chances. And so we'll be getting back into perhaps the upper 80s, even for Atlanta by early next week. So that should be some good news. For the tropics, 5-day tropical weather outlook, no new tropical cyclones are expected during the next 5 days, so that's some good news. We are going to be watching, though, the fact that many of you may have seen the Hurricane Center updated its outlook for the hurricane season. So 10 to 17 named storms, and so they increased their totals. Now, what's interesting about this increase is the fact that we're already into mid-August, and we've only had 2 named storms. So the fact that we're increasing the totals means that they're actually seeing something that's very conducive to storm development. So the back end of this hurricane season, as we get into the peak into September, looks like it's going to be pretty active. Now, it doesn't mean that these storms are necessarily going to hit the contiguous United States. It just depends on what pattern we're in as to whether they'll actually hit the U.S. or curve out to sea. So, but the trends are that we should see significant increase in the number of storms here as we get into late August and September. So we'll be watching out for that. So in summary, likely rain chances again for southern sections today, but increasing for all areas by the latter half of the weekend and early next week. So as that moisture shifts back to the north, we'll see some heavier rainfall across west central Georgia and eventually all of Georgia as we get into early next week. A few strong storms possible each day, damaging winds, localized flooding, small hail, and frequent lightning. Can't rule out a severe storm as well, and we'll be watching for that flooding with those excessive rainfall outlooks for the south over the next couple of days. High temps to stay above average through the weekend, but then moderate. So we get through these low to mid 90s over the next several days, and we'll be back hopefully into the upper 80s, but certainly right around 90 as we get into early next week with the increased clouds and increased rainfall, allowing those heat indices to drop to 100 or lower. So with that, if you are on the landline, you can unmute your individual line by hitting #6 if you want to ask any questions, or if you want to ask any questions, you can chat in the chat window there if you want to ask any questions here for the Join Me as well. So any questions out there at all? Okay.